Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, Geographia with Rashid Fenty. Today we will discuss about basis of urban classification. Here we should be clear about what the bases are. First thing is, basis is plural of basis. There are some bases on which urban classification is done, largely. First basis is shape of the city. Shape of the city, which depends on siting mainly. If it is situated along the road, the shape is different. If it is inhabited around a central water body, the shape is different. If it is on a hillock, the shape is different. So the siting decides the shape. The siting decides the shape. Site of the town decides the shape of the city. The first basis of urban classification is the shape of the city. Then there are functions. This is called the functional classification. We know towns as tourist centers. The main function of the city is tourism. Then there are administrative centers. The main function of the city is administration, like district headquarters, like province headquarters, like national capital. These are the functions of the city, main specialized dominating functions of the city. Actually, city is all about functions and services. So there are many cities which are known for their dominant function, like tourist places, like administrative hubs, like financial hub, like tourist hubs, like at the crossroad of the transport lines, like Kanpur, which is also called the crossroad of national highways in India. Then there is a shape of the city and function of the city. Second is function of the city. Third is, and the very important is, size of population. Size of population also is an important basis of the classification of cities. How we just define the city, like tier 1 city, tier 2 city, tier classification of the city. Tier 3 cities, tier 4 city. Tier 1 city is the city which is having 1 lakh and more population. Tier 2 cities in India is a city having 50,000 to 1 lakh of population. Tier 3 city is having 20,000 to 50,000 of population. Tier 4 cities are those cities which are having the population of 10,000 and to 20,000. Here we should remember that below 10,000 of population in India, it is not called the city, it is called the town. Now we will talk about the main ideas of Mumford and Golden Children. We have covered Golden Children in a different lecture, and now we will mainly talk about the difference between the ideas of Golden Children and Lewis Mumford. According to Golden Children, he talked about the urban revolution. According to Golden Children, the urban civilization evolved as a revolution. But the Lewis Mumford says that there was not revolution. It was implosion. The city was imploded from within. And he talked about social change and cultural change of the city. Two theories of city, social change and cultural change. Let's talk about what he said, what he implied about his idea. He said their city is transformed into a city from a rural settlement in 4 stages. Eco-technique, we will take one, and this is about the source of the power. He said that in eco-technic stage, the source of power were wood, wind, and water. Wood, wind, and water. These are all natural forces, natural source of power. In this stage, the city dependent on these sources of power: wood, wind, and water. According to Mumford, after this stage, when the development took place, we progressed to paleotechnic stage. Like paleotechnic means the city was dependent on the power sources that were paleo in origin, ancient in origin. They were mainly iron and steel. The city was powered by the use of iron and steel. This was the second stage of social change. Then he said that the city progressed from there to neo-technical stage, when more technological innovation took place and the city dependent on more and more new technology. The city transformed it into neo-technical stage. But as we know that when the city planners and man realized that this overuse of technology is perhaps detrimental to the cities. So we have gone into biotechnic stage of city development, when the awareness of environmental protection came to the fore, and perhaps we are in both in neotechnic and biotechnic stages of the city development. Some cities are in neotechnic stage and some cities are in biotechnic stage. Now we are realizing that over-resilience on, over-dependence on technology is harming our environment and causing much pollution. So we are going back to the measures of environmental protection. Now we are talking about environmental protection more and more. Mumford also suggested an alternative scheme, that is cultural change. He said that city developed by cultural change. He said the first stage in this cultural change was Eopolis. You must have seen it in books and other literature. In Eopolis stage, the city was an overgrown village only. there was a big village where the diversification of economy just started, and the village was started to change into urban system. It was, according to Mumford, the cultural change of village to city. It was called Eopolis. Then in second stage, according to Mumford, this Eopolis changed into polis. A market was emerging, diversification. There was more diversification of economy, and a market was emerging. That was the polis stage of the city or urban system. The separation of market and residential area took place, as the Gordon Childre also talked about. After that, when this polis expanded more and more, it it developed into metropolis. Metropolis literally means is large city. The city became very large. Now it developed into a metropolis. When this metropolis depended more and more, the wealth started dominating the cultural landscape of the city. Now the wealth was everything. So according to Mumford, when wealth was everything, the city was known as megapolis. The wealth is everything in megalopolis. But due to the overdependence of wealth, the city has started decay. So it developed into Tyrannopolis. The city has now grown into a Tyrannopolis, where the crime rules the roost. The crime is increased manifold, and the problem of crime in the city became so big that it was not manageable. The city, due to the overdependent of wealth, grown into a Tyrannopolis. According to Mumford, the city will go into a Tyrannopolis when the overdependence of wealth will take place. More and more crime will be there. After this stage, according to Mumford, the city will develop into necropolis. According to Mumford, necropolis means the dying city. According to Mumford, the massive increase in wealth will lead city to the necropolis, the dying city. The city will die. That is the idea of implosion also, that it will die from within. It will start dying from within. It will succumb to its own weight. So we can revise the ideas that, according to Gordon Childre, there was urban revolution, and according to Mumford, it was not revolution, it was implosion. First, we talked about what are the bases of urban classification. And those bases are shape, which are dependent on siting of the city. Second basis is the stage. What stage the city in which we were talking about. Function of the city is also a important basis, and size of population. in which the tier 1, 2, 3, 4 classification of cities takes place. According to Mumford, there are two theories of cities development. He talks about social change and he talks about cultural change. In social change, he talked about the stages of ecotechnic, in which the city was dependent on wood, wind, and water. In second stage, which is paleotectonic, the development of the city was dependent on iron and steel. In third stage, which is neotechnic stage, technological innovations rules the roost. And in fourth stage, which is biotechnic, environmental protection, the awareness on environmental protection became very important. According to Mumford, there is an alternate development theory of cities, that is cultural change, which we are talking about. First stage is Theopolis, where the city was an overgrown village, diversification of economy just started. In Polis stage, market developed, segregation of commercial and residential areas took place. After that, a large city was developed, that is metropolis. And in this metropolis, when the wealth rules the roost, it is megalopolis. And when metropolis is developed and wealth is very important, the crime increased very much. So the city started dying, and after that city became Tyrannopolis. The crime rate increased, and due to this increased crime, Necropolis, the dying city, was the Vardana city started dying due to its ills. We will discuss more in next lecture